So what are some things to think about when you're placing a sofa in your new living room? Well, stay tuned to find out what they are. Hi everyone, it's Carol from Discover Interior Design, and I'm so glad you're here. In this episode, I'm going to give you some tips, some ideas of what to think about to help you figure out where to place your sofa in your new living room when you move to your new place. And if we think about it, our sofa or sectional in the living room is the most important piece in that room. It's, where we have a seating area and a conversation area. So, figuring that out ahead of time, where we're going to place the sofa, then everything else will fall into place. So stay tuned for some ideas on how to do that. So one of the first things to do is really notice what are the natural features in your new living room. Where are the windows and how high off the ground those are? Or do you have a fireplace? Or are there built-in shelves or built-in cabinets? And where are the openings or where are the doors? And just kind of taking note of all of that information. And then the other thing to think about is, what is the natural shape of that room? Is it, a rectangle and very horizontal? Or is it almost kind of square, where, the sides, all four sides are kind of equal? Take a look at that shape, because that will also help you decide, which way your sofa may work more naturally. So for instance, if you have a very long room, placing your sofa in that same direction makes a lot of sense, because our sofas are long horizontal rectangles. And, naturally our eye will want to make sense of things. And one way we do that is having things go with one another, repeating something. So when we are placing a sofa in the same direction, say as a long room, then naturally that makes sense. It makes sense to our eye and it makes sense to that room. And then if you have a large room where, maybe you could have two different things going on in that room. Maybe you have room for a conversation area with your sofa, but also you have a room for, a little reading nook. Then take a look at the natural shape of where your conversation area would be. Is it kind of a rectangular shape? And placing the sofa that kind of goes in that same direction will make sense. Or is it more square shaped? Then, maybe that opens it up to placing the sofa in a different position. So just take a look at your room and see what would naturally make sense in there. And then the other thing to be aware of is the natural walkways. So, when you first go into that room, there's a natural walkway, going into the room and going to other sides of the room. Or maybe you need to go from one doorway to another doorway. There's always usually a natural walkway. But we can change that. With your sofa, we can follow the natural walkways, and kind of keep those same walkways. If you have a front door and it leads directly down to the kitchen and dining room area, well, it makes sense that we wouldn't want to place a sofa right there in front of that doorway. This living room is a good example of that. Making sure that there's still room for people to get from the front door all the way back to the kitchen is really important. So we wouldn't want to, put the seating area in front of the doorway. So it makes sense that they have the seating area on the other wall. But if you have a natural walkway, you can also change it. So, just by placing your sofa out in the room a little bit maybe. Maybe you change the direction of the walkway. Think about that when you're, thinking about where to place the sofa. And, what's going to happen to those walkways? Is it going to make sense that people will now walk behind the sofa instead of, on the other side of the wall to get to the other room? So just kind of keep that in mind when you're making that decision. And then there's always this fun conversation about whether you should have your sofa against the wall or out in the room. And it really goes back to your room. Is your room deep enough to have your sofa out in the middle of the room? And if it is, that's great. It creates a neat feature, a neat conversation automatically. And then, it kind of changes the walkways. It, maybe creates a new walkway behind that seating area. But if you don't have a deep enough area for that, or, in the example that I showed before, if you have a natural walkway that you don't want to block, well, it wouldn't make sense to have your sofa out and, start to impede on that natural walkway. So just go back to your room, take a look at it, what makes sense in there, and just do what, makes sense to you and what's going to make sense with the look and feel that you're going for in that room. So talking about the natural features in the room and walkways and also the shape of the room is, all about the room, making sure that all of the furniture, all of the different elements in the room make sense with that room. So the other important part to think about is what's going to make sense to us? What's going to be enjoyable to us when we're sitting on that sofa? Do we want to, look outside and enjoy the view? Or do we want to enjoy the fireplace? Or do we like to have a wall where a TV will be? So think about what's important to you. What's going to make sense to you? So when you're thinking about where to place your sofa in your new living room, just think about a couple of things. Take a look at the natural features in the room, the natural direction and shape of the room, as well as any features like a fireplace and the doorway and, any windows. And think about walkways. Do you want to keep the natural walkway that's already happening in there, or do you want to kind of change it up a little bit? And then most importantly, think about what's important to you. When you're sitting on that sofa, where do you want to look? Do you want to watch TV or do you want to look outside? So think about all those things and then your sofa will fall into place. It'll, naturally make sense in a certain area that will make sense to you. So I'd love to find out from you what you thought about when you placed your sofa in your new living room. Let me know in the comments what your design ideas are and your thoughts on this topic. And I want to thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.